Today we're going to be talking about generating documents via DocumentsCorePack with Microsoft Flow and using PowerApps. Maybe a little bit, you've probably heard of Microsoft Flow and PowerApps, maybe not used it that much. So we kind of wanted to show you guys what you could do if you were already familiar with DocumentsCorePack, to show you some of the things that you can do with these two apps here. As usual, we do record this webinar, and we'll be providing a link to the recording along with the slides, so you can go back and review it and take a look through it, and watch the parts that you want to watch again. As always, we also have a chat down there. It's in the lower right-hand corner of your screen. It says chat up above. Michael's going to be monitoring that chat, and we'll be answering any questions that you have. So feel free to ask any questions during the webinar, and we'll get those answers for you. We do a brief kind of question and answer session after the webinar, time allowing, and so let's go ahead and get started. So the first thing is just a little bit of history here. So DocumentsCorePack was developed for the CRM, for Dynamics CRM. So right now the latest version is running on the Dynamics 365 version of CRM. It's also the platform that's behind it is known as what's called the XRM platform. So now, basically going forward, Microsoft has moved over to what they're calling the new Power Platform, and this is based on the Common Data Service, and it also provides several data connectors that interface with this common data backend across many different applications. In addition to that, there's a couple of new technologies that come with the Power Platform. One of them, the first one being Power BI, and that's used to actually measure and analyze your data. The next one would be Flow, which is basically to do kind of like an automated process or a task. If you're familiar with workflows and using workflows in Dynamics 365, then Flow will be a lot easy for you, pretty easy for you to understand. And lastly is PowerApps, and PowerApps allows you to build simple custom business apps that your user can use to kind of shrink down the whole CRM experience into something small and with less things to click. It's pretty direct and just an easier way to do it. So the Common Data Service is kind of equal to what we know as Dynamics 365 CE, or the customer engagement. Now the nice part about this is actually the XRM platform. So the DocumentsCorePack solution works out of the box with the PowerApps, with the Power Platform, without any updates requiring for our existing customers. So basically what we wanted to show today would be some examples on how to use DocumentsCorePack using these new technologies, with the focus being on Flow and the PowerApps. So let's talk a little bit about document generation requests. So basically, to understand how we're going to do this, we need to kind of take a look at how DCP kind of works in the background right now when generating documents. So if you've kind of created any workflows with DocumentsCorePack before, you'll know that you should be pretty familiar with the auto-merge working items. For those that are not familiar with auto-merge working items, they're basically, it's a record that's generated that you're allowed to, you can set the parameters and to actually generate the documents and do post-processing of what you're going to do with that document after you created it. Some examples of the things that you can set in that would be like your template that you want to execute, what record you want to store this against, the file type that you can create, whether that be PDF, docx, those are a few examples, and the post-processing options, which would be saving to SharePoint or printing it. So basically, after you've done this and you've created these auto-merge working items, in the background, there's a document generation service. And what this document generation service does is it basically listens for new entries of the auto-merge working item custom entity. And when it finds one, it reads and executes the actions defined on the auto-merge working item record. So it goes through all these options and then processes the document and does all the post-processing. One thing of note is that the document is always that's created is always sent back as a note attachment attached to an entity that we have in there called mscrm-addons.com user temp. You may have seen it when kind of looking through your advanced find. So it saves it back to that record regardless of other processing options. So whether you're saving it as SharePoint, it's always going to kind of be there. The reason that I'm saying this right now is this becomes important later, so I kind of wanted you to keep that in the back of your head while I'm going through this. So the thing is because the AutoMerge working item is just kind of a CRM record that's picked up by the service, all we really need to do is to create a Canvas app that allows the user to either the user to define inputs, or we can do predefined inputs that set up the document generation and post-processing parameters. That will then trigger a flow, okay? And that flow is going to be what creates our AutoMerge working item to be processed by the service, all right? So upon completion, we can process the document inside of Flow as well, using different tools that we have to our disposal, not just these post-processing options that we have on the AutoMerge working item, but also in Flow. Some examples of that would be like, say for example, we create the document and want to save it to a OneDrive location or to a Dropbox, or we want to send a bunch of marketing emails with the created document as an attachment via Outlook from your MailChimp marketing list. You know, you can kind of go on. There's a lot of different connectors and things like that in Flow that will allow you to just do a lot more than you can, say, with the standard workflow in Dynamics alone. So the major thing is here that the takeaway from this is that the AutoMerge working item is definitely the key to making all this happen. So let's kind of get a little understanding about how it works and what you need to set up in Flow to make this work. So basically, there are a couple things here. This is just basically a screenshot of what it kind of looks like in Flow, and we'll see that just in a minute when I bring up the demo. So there's a couple things that are required in order to do this. Number one is the AutoMerge action, and the AutoMerge action is going to be this ginormous number right here. This actually doesn't make any sense, but just to explain it real quick, again, if you are familiar with the AutoMerge working item, you'll know that one of the options that you have to set is you have to pick what you want this AutoMerge working item to do, whether that be to create the document, to create a SharePoint location. It's a drop-down, so you pick from that. And as we all know, things from a pick list, really and truly inside of Dynamics, they're not actually like, it wouldn't be like create document. It's actually, there's a number behind it. And this is basically, this AutoMerge action is this number here is actually telling this working item that we want to create a document. Okay, that's pretty much it. The next piece would be you need to define a file type, whether that be PDF, docx, what have you, whatever kind of file type you want to create, or file you want to create. You need to define a template, and then you need to define a primary record URL. And what the primary record URL is actually, it is just the URL of the actual record that we're processing this flow, or would be a workflow, workflow or a flow against. Usually, it just usually consists of your CRM URL and then a couple other tags in here. But what's mainly important is that record GUID. That's basically telling you what record that you're going to be, the actual record that you're grabbing this information from, all the fields and everything like that that you're going to populate inside your document. A couple of optional things that you have here is the processing options within Dynamics 365. And that's, of course, I've gone over some of them: print, save to SharePoint, save as note, or again, really important, to process in the flow, keep processing in the flow. So today's demo, basically what we're going to cover here is we're going to trigger document generation inside of a Canvas app using the Power App that we've created and a Flow. The first one is just going to be really simple. It's just a fire and forget, and it's just click a button, create a document, save it to SharePoint. That's pretty much it. And so we'll walk through the Canvas app and also walk through the Flow as well. The next one is going to be the Advanced Flow in Canvas app, and this is going to be a little bit different. It's going to take user input, then we're clicking a button, we'll create a document, we'll send an email, and then it'll it'll bring data back into the actual Canvas app. So again, we'll show the app, walk through the app, and also the flow as well. So let me go ahead and bring up the first example here. Oops. There we go. All right. So here we go. Here's the first one. May have to do some corrections here. So basically, this is my flow right here. Let me just go ahead and bring that up and edit it, and then take a quick look here. There we go. All right, got everything together now. Back where I need to be. So great. So here we have our flow here. This is for our first particular flow that we're going to do, the fire and forget. This is our Canvas app. This is what your user will be seeing. Have the ability to search this. It's for my particular quotes. I can search my quotes, etc. So I'm just going to go ahead and pick the first quote. That brings me actually here into my Canvas app. Now this is my first scenario here that I'm going to be using. So here I have my little button to fire and forget. So I'm going to just go ahead and click that off, and it's going to fire off my flow. One other thing here that's really nice and of note is that I'm actually pulling information actually from this quote, so I can see like the name, the quote ID, all that good stuff. I can see exactly what it is I'm doing here. So the fire and forget, basically what this does is it has gone off, and let me just go ahead and bring this up. It's basically gone through. It's grabbed the template that I defined, and it's created the auto merge working item, and it has saved it back to SharePoint. So I get no notifications or anything like that. It just basically goes, and if I go here into my actual quotes here, I should have yeah, here it is. This is the PDF that I just created. So I can open that up, and you can see here the PDF that was generated all through the flow just by clicking the button. So very, very simple. So how does this actually work? Let's kind of dive into this Canvas app here. So basically, this is my first scenario. All this is a button that I'm triggering. All this button does is basically it tells it that I want to I want to run the fire and forget flow here, and I pass the quote, the ID, the GUID to my flow here. Okay, and that is here. So basically, this flow, once I fire it, the flow here lets the starting point is that I know that this is coming from a Power App. That's pretty much all you need to do in here. And all this thing does is I'm grabbing a template. This is just a standard thing when you're actually like adding these things to a flow. You can define the name here, etc. But here I just add my organization where I'm grabbing it from, the entity where I'm grabbing it from, and the template that I want to use. And this is actually the GUID of the template. I can't define like a template name, but you can just grab the GUID from the URL and paste it right in there. So this is a predefined template. So no matter when I click this button, no matter what, it's always going to run the same template. Well, once I've defined that GUID, once I've defined the template, I'm going to create this new record, and this is what I was showing before, which is the auto merge working item. So I'll go ahead and show the advanced options here. Again, it's just the auto merge action that I want to do, which is create document. Then a couple other things here down here that I'm doing. This is the primary record URL, where I'm just grabbing the GUID that was passed from the Power App to the flow up here, and grabbing that GUID and putting it in here. So that builds that primary record URL, so I know which record that I'm running this against. And then let's see, it's giving it the, I'm saving this as a PDF. I'm creating the PDF, saving it as a PDF, and I'm referencing the template to execute by basically defining from the previous step in flow, kind of like you would in a workflow using local values. I'm just using basically this is almost like a local value in a workflow here that I'm referencing back to grab the the template that I want to execute. And then, so basically the rest of the stuff is then, once this is created, it then just processes that. The service picks it up and processes the auto-merge working item, which creates the document and saves it right in a SharePoint. So it's a real simple example. So let's move into something that's a little bit more complicated. The next piece down here, I'm just going to kind of stay here in my PowerApps Studio. This is basically a little bit more advanced. Here we are actually not defining, and here's my setup here, and here's the flow for it. Here I'm not like predefining anything. I'm doing like user selection. So here there's a couple things here, like, so I'm defining here my templates here. How I'm grabbing it, I'm defining that right here in the flow. I'm basically using this to basically search for the DocumentsCorePack templates where the template is a quote and for the group mobile. So it's going to filter down, like, say, usually if you work with DocumentsCorePack templates before, you have a lot of templates in there. Here, basically, I'm filtering on a group of templates and only showing those, so I don't have a big long list of templates. That's kind of how I'm doing that. The next piece is this little pick list here, just basically defining whether it's a PDF or docx. And then once I've done that, basically I'm going to be using this generate document button. Now what this generate document button does is, again, just like in the other one, once I click it, it's actually running it's telling it to run the flow. Right, so it's the document generation via DocumentsCorePack, so it's running that, and this time we're passing along 3 parameters to it. We're passing along the quote ID, we're passing along the template ID that's selected here, and we're passing along the file type, which is the value here, PDF or docx. Okay, so once we click that, it goes in and it finds the flow and it fires it in, and these parameters are passed here into this PowerApp step right here. Next thing I do is, because I'm going to use these in several different places, we're storing these values in different variables here, and that's basically what this step is here in Flow. So it's the record GUID. This is how I'm going to build my primary record URL. So I'm actually just kind of grabbing it and storing it as a variable. I use it in a couple of different places. So I just kind of want to store it in there so I can use it multiple times. My template GUID, again, same thing. It's passed here from this, the GUID of the template. You can see here that it's passed, and then so I'm just storing that as well. The file type, and then this is just a generated temp. This is a generated temp record. This is we're just defining this variable here because we're actually going to, once we generate the document, we want to grab it back from CRM and actually do some post-processing on it, which you're going to see here in a second. Just like kind of answer back to the actual Power App. Once I go through that, I'm doing the template to execute. As I did before, same thing before, just giving it my CRM organization name, my entity name, which is my DocumentsCorePack templates, and here it's the template GUID variable here that I'm using. The next thing is where it gets really interesting because I have two different this little option set here. What I'm doing here is, let me back it up here a little bit. So I am doing two things. Basically, I'm checking if the file type is equal to the text PDF. So if it's yes, I'm going to go through again and create my auto merge working item the same way as I did before, except that the only difference here is that I'm actually generating a PDF. My file output type is going to be PDF. And here, because I want to basically wait until this document's created, because I actually want to grab it and do a few things with it inside of Flow. I'm going to wait until this auto merge working item status is basically set to inactive. Now, the reason that I do that is because, and this is something that I'd like to just kind of go over real quick, and this is something that if you've worked with the workflows in this before, you possibly know. The reason that I'm having to wait on this is because, yeah, we do create this auto merge working item record. Okay, let's say, for example, like in a workflow or here in this flow, we create it, and it's the flow and the workflow and are totally independent of what the service, the document generation service, is doing. So basically, the service is processing the auto merge working item, and if I didn't tell the flow to actually wait until the status is inactive, it would just kind of keep going. So it may keep going, and it may get to a point where I want to do something with the document, and the service isn't done creating it yet. It isn't done creating it yet, and returned it back to CRM. So I have to the only way that I know if the auto merge working item if the service has processed the auto merge working item, is if the status is actually set to inactive. So you have two states, you have active and inactive. So I'm basically waiting until it's set to inactive. And then I can continue to process my flow. So here what I'm doing is I'm going in and I'm grabbing the record, the URL of the record that is stored in user temp, which contains the document that I just produced attached to the note. From there, I then grab that piece from the user temp settings, and then I set my variable that I set up there with the information from where the actual PDF that I created was. I kind of grabbed that. Okay, so that would be the end of that one particular action. If no, this does the same thing. It's because we have two choices here, PDF or docx. I can do a yes, no, just kind of like a Boolean thing. Because if it's not a PDF, it's definitely a docx. So if it's no, I'm basically going through doing the same exact thing, except this time, just the only difference is I am creating a docx document. So same difference in those two. So here I'm grabbing the note record. I'm actually then taking this information and then kind of building a few things out here. This would be this little piece right over here, where I'm basically building out a link back to the document location of where it's stored on SharePoint. And also, I'm actually doing another one. The last little piece here is where I'm actually taking the actual document itself, the PDF document or the docx document that I create, and then I'm I'm bundling it up in an Outlook message, and sending that Outlook message with a few little parameters in it. Lastly, what this does is responds back to the Power App, letting us know that right here, that this generation was successful, and puts in my SharePoint link here. So that's what that flow does. So you can see it gets, you can make these things as complicated as you want. You can do a lot of stuff. In this, we're using a bunch of different elements, the post-processing abilities of the auto merge working item, also the post-processing abilities of flow. So it's a combo of kind of both. So let's take a look and see how that works. So let me just go here real quick, and we're going to be able to watch it kind of step through it, which is pretty cool. So here I can actually pick my template here. So let me take, I don't know, this particular one. You see I have 4 to choose from. So it's filtering out all those templates. My file type, docx or PDF, and then fire away. So I'll just go ahead and refresh right over here. And here's my flow that's running right now. It's probably gone through the first part. It's probably at the condition. Yep. So it's gone through, and then so it's found that yes, this is a PDF, that I want to create a PDF. I've created my working item, and now basically the longest part here is longest part is that I'm waiting on the PDF creation, which happened pretty quick. Then it continues to fire through the flow. Then I've got the stuff just pushed back to my my actual flow here. I mean my actual Canvas app here, so I can actually open this up in my browser. I can use the link here and open it up there, or I've gotten an email here, basically that has this email. Please find the attached quote in PDF format and review, and let me know if you need anything else, so I can preview it right in there. So there you go. Pretty simple, pretty fast. So yeah, so that concludes the demo portion of it. I hope that was informative and gives you a little bit more of a feel about how you know, you can use these Canvas apps in Flow to actually generate documents and what all you can kind of do with it, give you some ideas. I want to talk a little bit about some upcoming things that we're going to be doing. That would be document generation from Dynamics portals, so being able to, in the portal, via the portal, just triggering document generation, kind of like what we did with Flow. So the users can basically fill out things in the portal, hit the button, and then it generates a document in the back end and provides that to them. The other thing that's important is, because this was a lot of info and everything like that that I went through, we are doing a blog series with how-tos and examples. This is probably going to be one of the examples that we're going to show. So look for those. Those should be coming up shortly. And we're going to also be doing some document generation based on the Common Data Service as well. So I want to thank everybody for joining today. Of course, naturally, you can find us on the web at www.mscrm-addons.com. Our help center, our support, it's always available. Easiest way is to go to our website and hover over the support button and then choose what you want. Live chat. You can write us at the support email at support@mscrm-addons.com. And also, while you're there, check out our blog. It's got a bunch of tips and tricks and things of that nature. This was also where the blog articles are going to be that are going to kind of go over this. It's just hover over the support and choose blog.